Hello everybody, if you're new here, hi, my name is Bash Harry. This is the Harry Knit. We do a lot of knitting projects and stuff, so if you're new here, please do subscribe and comment and do all that usual stuff. It really helps out the channel. Today we are going to show you a tutorial on how to make the Rehat sweater. It's the sweater that I'm wearing right now. This is a size 1. But you can, the average size is usually a size 2, 3, but the sweater itself is pretty big. It's very oversized, which is what I wanted. And I also wanted a sweater that was super sheer and something that was easy to wear during the summer and the springtime. So not necessarily something you only wear during the fall and winter, although you can definitely wear this if you want to layer. We just released the pattern last night, so I'm really excited. You can find it on ravelry or Ko-fi, and if you use the code Rehat10, that's REHAT and then the number 10, you can get 10% off. Here's a QR code for the Ravelry, here's the QR code for the Ko-fi, and this tutorial is just like a step-by-step guide on how to knit it. Hopefully this would be easy to understand and to just go through the process of knitting the sweater. The sweater itself uses really large needles, but Aran weight yarn, which gives it this sheer design to it. And I would describe this like level to be beginner to advanced beginners. I wanted to do a design that wasn't necessarily difficult, so there's no short row shaping or anything. There's no ribbing, because I do not like ribbing very often. I think it's nice to look at a sweater, but sometimes I like a very unfinished look to my sweaters. I think it just looks cooler. That's my personal opinion. And I also wanted something that was just something easy to throw on and something that was oversized. So even though I'm wearing size 1 right now, the first one that I made was in sample size 2 on a 35-inch bust, but you can always size down if you want something a little bit smaller. I'm really excited. This is my first sweater pattern. I released the Awan vest 2 years ago, and then the Bandar Beanie last year, and we have a lot more projects and releases coming up hopefully this year. I always say that, and then the time just goes by so quickly. But yeah, this is the Rehat sweater. So we're going to do step by step with the construction, the materials you need, and then the tutorial itself. For the Rehat sweater construction, you start first by casting on stitches for the back panel, working top down till the end of the armhole depth. Once you're done, you take the right front panel and pick up stitches at the cast on edge. You do the exact same thing for the left front panel before joining the front panels together before working on the main body. The main body is worked in the round, and then once you're done, you do the sleeves. You have the option of doing 3 different finishing options. It's all up to you. And that's basically it. That is essentially what you need to know before making this. Sometimes it gets confusing at the beginning, but hopefully the instructions are super clear and you wouldn't be worried too much. What are the materials you need? You will need 10mm needles or any needle to obtain the gauge. The gauge is going to be in the pattern. So if you do want to learn how to make the sweater, I do recommend buying the pattern. You will also need Aran weight yarn. You can use thinner yarn if you want to. I know some of the test knitters did use it, but it does make the sweater a lot more see-through. I used Noro Kureyon for sample size 2, which is the one that you can see here. And I think this is all that I used up. And you can see it's a bit thicker than this sweater, which uses Hobby Divina. This is in the shade white. This one is in the shade 459. And I think the reason why the Noro Kureyon looks a lot thicker and less sheer is because of the way it's plied. So it's Z-plied, which means like some areas are like chunkier than others, whereas this one, which is Hobby Divina, is a lot more blown out, so it's a lot sheerer. You will also need measuring tape, stitch markers, darning needle, scissors, scrap yarn, or stitch holders. This is so you can just pick up the project easily when you're doing the project. I'd say this project would take you about, I want to say 3 to 5 days, depending on how much effort you put into it. throughout the week. Honestly, if you tried really hard and watched Fallout or any new TV shows, you could probably have it done within the day because it is a really quick pattern. So with that all out of the way, let's begin the tutorial. It's your girl voiceover bash because I accidentally recorded this portion of the video in slow-mo, so I had to speed it up and the audio sounded so wonky, so here I am showing you how to cast on. I've shown you this part many a times, but what I like to do is I start my tail end wrapping it twice around the yarn, as many times as necessary. For me, I like to count maybe about 10 stitches wrapped around, even 20, and then multiply it just by eyesight. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but I'd rather I have just enough yarn and a really long tail than have a super short tail. So that's my first tip. For this cast on, we're doing a regular long tail cast on. I'm sure if you're watching this video, you probably know a thing or two about it. It's the easiest, most basic way that you learn how to do a cast on, and that's exactly what we're going to be doing. Let me know if you want a more in-depth video on each step to do knitting, like how to do a long tail cast on properly, how to do a knit stitch, purl stitch, etc. I feel like that would be really fun to do, like little mini videos on how-tos and things. Once you get all the stitches on your needle, you can finally start knitting. For this, we're doing the back panel first, and you just want to work in stockinette stitch flat. So knit the right sides, purl the wrong sides. We've got this to the length that I want. This is the back portion, as I said. Now we're gonna move on to the decreases to work on the armhole shaping. For the Rehat sweater specifically, we're just gonna do a knit one, and then a slip, slip, knit. And then you wanna continue until 3 stitches before the end of the row. There are 3 stitches left. All you gotta do is knit 2 together and then knit 1. Then you turn the work around, work the purl side, knit normally for row 3, and then knit purl or purl for the row 4. In the pattern, it'll tell you how many times to do this. I'm just going to quickly finish it off. As I said earlier, for this specific pattern, you want to work every other knit row as a decrease. And I did show you guys earlier how to do it. I'm just going to show you one more time. You knit 1 like so, and then slip, slip, knit, and then continue knitting, or at least 3 stitches before the end of the row. We're at the final 5 stitches. So knit normally until you get the 3, then just knit 2 together, and then knit 1. This panel is almost done, so I just need to knit up the last few stitches, and then we'll start working on the front panels. I feel like if you just take a day or two, this is definitely a very easy project to finish quickly, depending on how much time you take. But I think the last project I did with this sweater, the first Rehat sweater, only took about 3 to 4 days, and even that was because I just kept finessing it. This is how it should look like. If you can hear the grass cutting, I'm really sorry, but the panel is now complete. We just need to break off the yarn so we can work on the front panel. I'm leaving probably a 10-inch tail, and all I'm doing is I'm leaving it on the cable that I'm currently working with, because that's the easiest thing for me to do. If you don't have any cables like this, that you don't use interchangeable needles, What you can do instead is slip all the live stitches into a scrap yarn of a different color so you can differentiate it easier. That's what I did for years and it definitely helped me. That's just one option you can do. Or if you have one of those new fancy stitch holders that I've been seeing lately, I don't have that yet. I'd like to, but I don't have it, so we're gonna just keep to the tried and true. Maybe don't wear your watch so it doesn't attack your fibers. And once you're done with the back panel, we can finally move on to the front panel. We're gonna start working on the front panel now. We're gonna start the right front and then the left front. When I mean front, left, and right, it is as the garment is worn, not as in what you're looking at. That's very important to note when you're working on a garment, especially one like this where left and right can mean many, many things. In the context of the Rehat sweater, it means how it's worn. So we're gonna start with the right front here. And starting from the cast on edge, you wanna pick up 17 stitches if you're working on size 1. The stitches are very different if you are working on the other sizes, but I'm gonna be doing 17. You wanna pick up 17 across this border because that's where the shoulder is gonna be, and that's also how we're gonna start shaping the neckline. We're gonna leave a bit of a long tail here, and then we're gonna pick up and knit, sort of like a cast on, 17 stitches. So I like to wiggle my needle right in the gaps here, wrap my yarn around, and just slip on. And you wanna do that 17 times until you get 17 stitches on the needle. You don't have to make sure that it lines up with the needles or the stitches perfectly, but if you can, that's also great too. We've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 17. We've got 17 stitches on the needles. Now we just have to purl the back or the wrong side of the row. If you find that when you're heading to the end of the row and the last 2 or first 2 stitches that you picked up feel a little loose, do not worry. You can simply tighten it by using the tail together. Tighten it real nice, then use the 2 strands of yarn, the tail and your working yarn around, and purl as normal. And then you're ready to work on the neckline. We're gonna work on the neckline shaping as we're gonna continue working on the front panel. What we want to do is, because this is the right front, we have to do some increases. I'm going to start knitting to the very end of the row until 1 stitch before the end. Now that we're at the end of the row, we just have 1 left. We're going to make 1 left. We're going to increase by making M1L. At least that's what's referred to in the pattern. Different knitters have different techniques. I'm going to show you the one that's in the pattern. So what we're going to do is take the right needle, pick up the stitch from the back to the front, like so, and then place it on the left needle. And then we're going to insert the tip of the right needle of the front strand, like so, and knit through the back loop. We'll show you one more time. We pick up the bar between the needles or between the stitches from the back to the front, slipping it to the left, and then knitting through the back loop. And that's it. We're gonna do the purl row as normal, and then we're just gonna continue repeating that until the correct number of stitches, and I'll come back to you later on. We just finished working on the increases. As you can see here, there's this slight increase towards the left side, and we need to do 1 more row of the right side, so let's just knit that up very quickly. And once you get here, same as row 1, just pick one between the bars, slide it over to the left needle, then knit through the back loop to make 1 left. Now we're gonna break this. Well, not break this, we're gonna cut the yarn, leaving a little bit of a tail. We're gonna do the exact same thing that we did to the back panel and leave it on the cable. Then we'll start working on the left side. Okay, we have done the back panel, the right panel. Now we're gonna do the left front. Here we're gonna pick up stitches from the middle until the edge, and that seems a little bit confusing, I know, so I'll show you how I personally do it. We've got our yarn right here. I'll just put that to the side for now, and we're going to pick up 17 stitches, the same number of stitches for our right panel. What I like to do is I count from the very edge. So I'll count this little curl here as an edge. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So this is where we're gonna start. And then we'll pick up along the edge. And you wanna make sure that the right side of the panel is facing you. So roughly about here. We're gonna just wrap the yarn, pull it through, pick up, and then taking the long tail attached to the yarn, wrap it around. We're just gonna pick up the border like so. In the pattern, it'll be different number of stitches for different sizes, but since I'm doing size 1, we're picking up 17 stitches. It's okay if the body or the garment looks pretty tight right now. It's supposed to be pretty billowy, and once you block it, it should take its shape. That's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15, 16, and then 17. Okay, we turn to the wrong side and we purl. And as I said earlier, if you feel like the last stitch, which is the first stitch you picked up, the knit feels a little bit loose, just take the two ends, the two strands of yarn, wrap it, and purl that so you can at least tighten it a little bit. Now we can properly start on the increasing for the neckline shaping. So from the right panel, we increased towards the left. Now we're gonna be increasing towards the right. We're gonna do a knit one, make one right, and then knit to the end. Knit one, like so, and then make one right. Different people have different ways they do a make one right. In the pattern, it's gonna be called M1R, just for ease of reference. What you wanna do is you pick up the bar between the stitches, so this little bar right here, from the front leg to the back leg. So front to back, and then put it through the needle. And then once you're done, you want to knit normally. And that should give you a make one right leaning to the right. Let's do that one more time. You pick up the bar from the front to the back, put it on the left needle, and then knit as usual. And that's how you do a make one right. And then we're gonna continue knitting as normal. If you're following the Rehat sweater, then they'll tell you how many times you should do these rows and how many stitches you should have increased by. And then once we get to that, we can start attaching the left panel and the right panel together to create the neckline. I've done the increases now for the left panel, except for one more because I want to show you what it should roughly look like. I need to do one more increase here and then the purl side because we're going to start joining it together. It looks a little small, but don't worry, once we cast on the number of stitches, it won't be too tight. This one's 23, this one's 22. We do need to do one more set or one more row of increases, and then we're gonna go purl and then join this through the wrong side. So you can see with the make one right, the M1R, it does lean towards this side, whereas this one with the M1L, it kind of increases towards this side. So let's just do one more row very quickly. Knit one, make one right, then knit to the end. And then we turn and we do the purl row on the wrong side of the pattern of the garment. Now we've just finished the wrong side. Now we're going to join the front panels together. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna turn the work around towards the wrong side facing us. And now we're gonna attach this needle to this cable. If you are using scrap yarn, you can just use an old or spare set of needles that you have, just so it's easier to knit. But since this is already on a cable, we're just gonna use this to put this on. I hope I'm making sense. I really, really do. Now we're gonna cast on 4 stitches. So what I do is just a very simple cast on. 1, 2, see how my thumb is doing it? Picking up from under, just letting it go. Like this, with your thumb, picking up the line or the yarn towards you, that's towards you, and then pick up from the bottom. So we would have 4 stitches, and then we just purl as normal. There should be the string or the yarn that we cut from the right panel, and that's okay. If you want to kind of weave it in and not make it too loose, you can just knit the first stitch on the left needle with the 2 yarns, with the 2 strands of yarn, and it should be okay. I'll do it just a few times to secure, and then let's knit normally. This is what your garment should look like right now. We're gonna continue working in stockinette stitch until the front panel, which is this panel, measures to the X desired length that's required in the pattern. And then we'll just continue on working on the body once we're done. So I'll come back to you in just a bit. For me, it's like 30-45 minutes. For you, it's probably gonna be right now. Okay, we're back. I've done the front panels now. This is the length that you kind of want before we start on the armhole shaping. So we're gonna do the same kind of decreases that we did for the back panel here. This is about the same length before we did the decreases, and it's gonna be the same for this side relatively. So you want to knit 1, slip, slip, knit to create a left leaning decrease, and then knit until you reach the 3 stitches before the end of the row. So we're at the last 3 stitches of the row. All you want to do is knit 2 together, knit 1. And so you've decreased the stitches by 2. So you've decreased 2 stitches. You're going to turn the work and then work on the wrong side as a purl, go back to the right side and knit normally, and then row 4 will be another purl row. So every other knit row, you'll be decreasing by 2 stitches. In the pattern in the Rehat sweater, they'll tell you how many times you should do this, but I'm just gonna do this really quickly. It's been a few days, but I'm back. For you, it hasn't been long, but I literally just came back from Singapore. So I'm back with this tutorial and working on this whip. We've done the body, which is this, and then we've done the front section. So it looks like this. We've got a hole, we've done the front section, and they should match quite nicely together. And now we just want to cast on for the armholes, the armhole section, as well as joining the bodies together. Now we're going to attach it all together. We did say that you should end on a right side, which means that you should have finished on the right side. So I'm just gonna do 1 more row of knits, and then we're gonna not turn our work. We're not gonna turn our work. So we're just gonna knit until we get to the very end of our right side of the front panel. Now we have finished our last row of the front panel. Sorry about that. We're going to lay the piece flat, and now we're going to cast on and then start knitting the back panel. It depends on the pattern itself, what it calls for. Since I'm knitting the smallest version of size 1, I'm gonna cast on 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'm going to knit the back panel. You also want to make sure you're not twisting your panels. That has happened to me before, where I'm just knitting mindlessly and then turns out my work was twisted, so please be careful on that. Obviously, I do not have a spare needle that is the same size, that's 10 millimeters. So what I do is I take this needle that was on my working cable and I simply just switch it out. And then I'm gonna continue knitting like normal for the back panel. And then once you're at the end, you wanna cast the X amount of stitches. So for me, that will be 4, but for you, if you're doing a different size, it will be a different number. I've finished casting or knitting the back. Now we just wanna cast on 4 stitches or whatever number it says for your size in the pattern. I'm doing 4. I like to place just a basic stitch marker to mark the beginning of the round and continue knitting from there. Because once you start knitting, you're going to start doing the rest of the body. So that could be as long as you desire. I'm just going to start knitting off screen and I'll be right back with an update. Okay, we're back. We finished the body and now we're just going to start casting off for the edge. In the pattern, you can do 3 different types of edging on the body, the sleeves, and the hem or the neckline. So once you have the length that you want, we're just going to start casting off. So you'll want to knit 2 stitches and then pull the first one that you knit over the other. So knit 1, take the back stitch and put it over the other and off the needle. This is like probably one of the most basic bind off techniques that you can learn, and this is the one that I personally like. It's just easy, simple. I'm almost done casting off. What I'm going to show you right now is I'm going to show you how to do a crochet edge for the body. You can do a crochet edge, rolled hem, or a I-cord edge, but I'll show you how to do an I-cord edge for the sleeves. For the body itself, I'm just going to show you how to do a crochet edge. If you know anything about crochet, then it's just going to be a very, very simple edge. So you're down to the last stitch here. What I like to do is I like to take maybe the first stitch that we casted off, pick it up, knit it, and then slip it off. Take your scissors, maybe cut about a good 6 inches. So your body is complete. We have to do a crochet edge for the body. In the pattern, it'll tell you how to do the I-cord edge, and then it'll show you how to do the crochet edge, how to do a rolled edge as well. But for this section, we're going to show you how to do the single crochet edge. I have a crochet hook here that is 8 millimeters. The needles that we use to make the Rehat sweater is actually 10 millimeters. You don't have to do this, but what I like to do is I use crochet hook that is maybe slightly smaller than the original needles because we want our edge to be tight to prevent it from rolling, unless that's what you like. So I'm going to use this to do the edging. I'm going to set the work aside and we're going to start by making a slip knot with our new working yarn and keeping it fairly loose. I don't want it to be too tight. And then I'm going to insert the hook to any of the edge stitches. I obviously casted off from the side where the sleeves are going to be, so that's where I'm gonna start. So I'm slipping it into this stitch right here at the edge stitch, grabbing my yarn, and then I'm yarning over, slipping 1, yarn over, pull through all. Then I'm pulling it really tight. And that's how you do one single crochet edge. Doing it one more time, we're slipping it over, wrapping our working yarn around the hook, pull through 1, wrap again, pull through all. I promise you the tutorial and the pattern is a lot easier. You just want to insert the hook into the next stitch, yarn over, draw over a loop, yarn over, and then pull through both loops. And you just want to repeat that all around the edge of your pattern, of your garment. I'm going to finish this off screen and I'll come right back to show you how to properly finish. We are almost done with our edge. We have maybe a few more to go, and sometimes with your edge, it can look a little bit messy. That's okay. We're just going to do what we can. So I'm pulling it tight. And this is usually where you would want to cast off normally, but I don't really like that look. I think it looks a little unfinished. So I'm gonna zoom you in and I'll show you how I like to do it. And we have this really open looking stitch. So what I like to do is I like to go into the first stitch or single crochet stitch that we made. Go in, so you want to yarn over and then pull through all to create a slip stitch. And then I'm just going to cut my yarn, probably leave a pretty long tail because I want to weave it in. One more yarn over, pull through and pull tight. This is what the body looks like. It looks a bit messy for now, but don't worry, we are nowhere near done. We still have the sleeves and blocking to go. We have a lot more to look forward to. We're gonna start working on the sleeve now. So what you wanna do is you wanna make sure it's facing, the right side is facing you. You can start on the left sleeve or the right sleeve, it's totally up to you. It makes no difference. And obviously your new ball of yarn. I am using the same needles that I was using earlier. It is just my regular old 10mm needles. And we're gonna start by picking up from the bottom here. This is where we cast it on to join the body together, the front panels together. So I'm gonna zoom you guys in a little bit closer. Hopefully you can see. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm gonna start here at the armpit area and I'm wrapping my yarn, picking one up and knitting one. And you wanna continue around the armhole. And this depends on how many stitches you need to pick up. Obviously, the larger sizes would be asking for a lot more stitches to pick up. And so for this one, since I'm casting on size 1, I'm gonna pick up and knit X amount of stitches. So it really depends. And I also know that in terms of sleeves, it's different per design. Some patterns will require you to pick up 2 of every 3 stitches, 3 out of every 4. My pattern does not tell you that. It just gives you a rough gauge. So you have to figure that out, which I promise you is not as hard as it seems. For me, what I like to do is I divide the number by half. So if I'm, for example, size 1, it's 42 stitches. 42 divided by 2 is 21. So I make sure for the whole sleeve or half the sleeve from the bottom where I picked up here to the top, it will be 21 stitches. So let's do that together. 21. So that is a good number for me. So that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 21. So that's 21 stitches on half of the armhole. Now I know that I have to pick up 21 for the other section. Perfect, amazing. I did 2 every 3 stitches, but it could be different for you. Just, it's a lot of trial and error when you're knitting a sweater. So count your stitches. I've just finished picking up all the stitches I need. Now this is the easy part. All you gotta do is just start knitting. I'm going to put a marker just to know where I have to start and just start knitting. Sometimes the first stitch can be very loose because you just picked it up. So what I like to do is I take the working yarn and the tail that we used to pick it up, this too, and I just knit it into the first stitch. So wrap it around as many times as I want. Probably just do 3, 4. Yeah, I think 4 would be good. And then let it loose, let the tail loose. Then just start knitting normally with just the working yarn. And you want to continue knitting the sleeve until you reach your desired length. This is gonna be a while, so I'm just gonna watch a movie and I'll be right back. The sleeve is now done. We can finally do the I-cord bind off. This is going to be a little bit of a tutorial on an I-cord edge, but I'm just going to show you guys very simply and the method that I showed in the pattern. But if you have a different way you want to do the I-cord, feel free to do that, whatever makes you feel comfortable. I have finished the sleeve. It's about as long as I want it to be. If I think it's a bit too short, I can always just like stretch it out doing blocking. So with an I-cord edge, I will be switching out my needles. So instead of 10 millimeters, we are going to take my needle set and switching it to 8 millimeters. The reason why is the same as why we're doing a crochet stitch with a slightly smaller crochet hook. I don't want it to roll off, and that's something that I notice whenever I'm doing an I-cord with the same size needle. So it depends on your preference. I-cord can be very tricky, but it's up to you and how you feel like your knitting can work with the pattern. I'm sure you've seen this many a times, but I am going to just switch out my needles like so. Interchangeable needles are definitely an investment, and it's an investment that took me so long to get, but once I did, 100% totally approve, love it to bits. Will definitely recommend it to everyone I meet who's really interested in knitting, at least when I know that they really want to start getting into knitting seriously. If you're still a beginner and you're not entirely sure, maybe make 1 or 2 projects and then decide if knitting is for you. And if you do, get interchangeable needles because they're amazing and will change your life. Now that I have switched out my needles from 10 to 8 millimeters, we are going to start with our I-cord bind off. This one is a little bit different from the other bind offs that I recommend in the pattern because you're going to keep the stitches live on the cable, and you want to cast on 3 stitches. So 1, 2, 3. And then place those 3 stitches with your working yarn to the left needle. You can just slip it off purlwise. And now you can start with the I-cord edge. This is very repetitive, so watch. It is knit 1, 1, 2, and then knit 2 together through the back loop, like so, and then slip the 3 stitches back onto the left needle. And you want to repeat that around the whole sleeve. So knit 2, and then knit 2 together through the back loop, and then slip 1, 2, 3. I'll show you guys one more time. Knit 1, knit 2, knit 2 together through the back loop. So what you're essentially doing is slipping the 3 stitches from your right needle to your left, knitting 2, and then knit 2 together through the back loop, and then slipping it back onto the left needle. And then you can see here that it gives you a really nice crisp edge, and you just want to repeat that for the entire round. I'm just going to keep doing this until I get to the final 3 stitches, and there's no more live stitches to feed. I'm back, and I want to show you guys how to finish it off. I just put the 3 stitches back onto the right needle just to show you how to properly cast off. We have 2 left that we have to do, so I'm repeating myself and slipping the 3 stitches back on. Knit 2 stitches, and then knit 2 together through the back loop. It's a bit tricky. Slide it. So now you have 4 stitches left. Ignore this stitch marker. I'm going to take this out. I was just doing it to reference like how many more inches I had left to finish up this length of the sweater. But going on a tangent, we have 4 stitches now. 1, 2, 3, 4. knit 1, 2, and then knit 2 together through the back loop. Now in the pattern, it calls for you to knit 3 together and then fasten off, but you're left with this hole. Let me zoom you in. You're left with this kind of ugly hole, if I'm gonna be honest. So if you cast it off here, you're going to be left with this large hole. So what I like to do is I just pick up from the I-cord that we already made, wrap it, slip 1, like so. And then we use that as our last repeat of the I-cord bind off. And that should tighten the I-cord stitch or the I-cord edge, and it looks much better. So knit 2, and then knit 2 together through the back loop. And it already looks so much nicer. There's still a hole there, but you can easily fix it with just seaming and weaving in the ends. And now I'm going to knit 3 together. And then I'm cutting my string, probably just maybe 6 inches, 8 inches, and just close the loop. And then you have one sleeve done. You have to just repeat the process on the other arm, and then you're almost done with your work. You're finally done with the Rehat sweater. So I'm gonna do the other sleeve and I'll be right back. It's been a few days. The sweater is now done. Admittedly, this sleeve is slightly shorter than this one because I ran out of yarn, but that is okay because now we can block and fix this. And then we're done. We'll be done. For blocking, what I like to do is I usually run some water onto my sweater. I let it sit in a bath for like 15, maybe even 20 minutes, and then I lay it flat on some blocking mats. I got these new Knit Pro knit blockers. I think I talked about it in the last video. I got it in Singapore, and I really wanted to try them out because they were rust proof, and that was really important for me. You don't have to do this, but I'm meticulous and annoying when it comes to this stuff. I like to block my sweaters in accordance to what the pattern suggests. This is not just for my own patterns. I do it for every pattern that I follow because I want it to look exactly like what the designer recommended. Usually it takes me about a day or two for it to completely dry, but once you're done, you're done. You finally have the Rehat sweater, and it's so cute! Once it's all done, you can enjoy the Rehat sweater, which is the one that I'm wearing now. And you could also use the hashtag Rehat sweater on Instagram so I could see your pretty projects, and then you can also tag me at theharryknit. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully you got some little tips and tricks out of the way. If you want to buy this product, feel free to use the code REHAT10 for 10% off. I will have it up for probably a week or two, depending on how I'm feeling. Probably 2 weeks, really. But nevertheless, I do want to thank you guys so much for watching. I love knitting and I love sharing with you guys new patterns. I will have more up, I promise. But until then, my name is Vash Harry. This is The Harry Knit, and I will see you guys soon. Bye!